Hey everyone, tonight's story begins in the desert heat, under the blinding shimmer of the Assyrian sun. Before Rome, before Greece, before most of the stories that survived to reach us, there was a kingdom built on fear, stone palaces, towering gates and walls carved with scenes of conquest, not myths, not allegories, but trophies. You're about to wake up in Nineveh, the heart of the Assyrian Empire, around 650 BC. Your host tonight is King Ashurbanipal, a man who called himself King of the Universe, and who proved it by turning death into after-dinner entertainment. Take a breath. You're standing in a courtyard paved with sun-baked tiles. The air tastes of dust, incense and something metallic. Blood, faint but unmistakable. The walls rise high around you, painted with ochre, blue and gold. The relief's massive stone carvings show scenes of lions being hunted by a man in a chariot. At first you think it's heroic art. Then you notice the lions aren't really hunted. They're released into arenas, their paws chained, their ribs showing, so the king can kill them himself, safely, gloriously. It's the first royal blood sport in recorded history, and soon you'll understand that in this court, the lions weren't always animals. Ashurbanipal isn't the kind of king you imagine when you hear ancient despot. He's educated. He can read and write several languages. He keeps a library, the world's first, filled with thousands of clay tablets. He collects knowledge the way other rulers collect wives or slaves, and that's what makes him dangerous. He knows how power looks, sounds and feels in the minds of men. He knows cruelty isn't just punishment, it's theatre. You'd struggle to survive here because you wouldn't understand the rules. Mercy is weakness, fear is governance, and loyalty, it turns out, is a currency you pay with your life. Your day begins at dawn with the temple bells. The servants scrub the courtyards. The priests light incense for Ishtar and Ashur. The palace guards polish bronze helmets until the sun catches them like mirrors. You're one of 1,000 officials who live under the king's shadow. Scribes, soldiers, cupbearers, interpreters, accountants. Everyone whispers. Everyone spies. A wrong gesture in the throne room can mean a quiet arrest by nightfall. The Assyrian Empire runs on fear as efficiently as a modern machine runs on oil. Every conquest, Babylon, Elam, Egypt, is carved in reliefs along the palace walls, so the message never fades. Obedience is survival. The lions roar from their pit below the northern gate. You can hear them even from the royal apartments. They're fed at dawn, not on meat alone, but on prisoners, rebels, captured generals, foreign kings who dared defy Assyria. Their deaths are performances staged for one audience, the king himself. You'd think he'd watch from afar, detached, but no. Ashurbanipal enjoys proximity. He stands at the railing, still in his embroidered robe, the royal diadem glinting on his forehead. The lions pace in the dust below, muscles tight as coiled rope. Then the gate creaks open. A bound prisoner, still bleeding from interrogation, is pushed into the enclosure. No guards remain inside. The gate slams shut. For a moment the only sound is breathing, human and animal. Then chaos. The lions strike, claws raking, jaws snapping. The man's scream cuts through the courtyard. Ashurbanipal doesn't look away. He observes like a scholar studying anatomy. To him, this is both punishment and lesson. Rebellion ends in spectacle. You'd want to run, to close your ears, to look away. But you wouldn't dare. In Nineveh, flinching is treason. The courtiers watch the scene with masks of admiration. Eyes wide, lips pressed into practiced awe. The king glances at them, measuring reactions like a scientist taking notes. What you see here is more than cruelty. It's political theatre perfected. Every roar reinforces divine order. The lions symbolize chaos, the wild world outside Assyria's reach. Each feeding, each kill, reenacts the king's cosmic duty, to tame disorder, to dominate nature, to prove that even the gods favor him. This is how a ruler justifies absolute power before democracy, before law, through ritualized violence sanctified as ceremony. He feeds men to beasts, not just because he can, but because in doing so he reminds everyone, including the gods, that he must. As dusk falls, the lions sleep heavy-bellied. The king retires to his library, hands still smelling faintly of myrrh and iron. You lie awake in your chamber, unable to shake the echo of those screams. Outside, the desert cools. Inside, you begin to realize, in the court of Ashurbanipal, survival isn't about strength or loyalty, it's about silence. The crowd drifts away, sandals whispering over clay, until only echoes and the smell of blood remain. The pit lies still now, sand darkened, torchlight flickering over claw marks in the wall. You stand among the last few spectators, trying not to breathe too deeply. Every stone seems to hum with the same single truth. In Nineveh, mercy is the rarest luxury. From somewhere inside the palace, a conch horn sounds, soft, ceremonial. It means the king has gone to wash his hands. The rest of the city exhales. The corridors that lead away from the courtyard are narrow and cool. Reliefs cover every surface. Lions pouncing, prisoners kneeling, the king eternal in his triumph. The torchlight makes the carvings move as if the walls themselves remember. Every visitor must walk this hallway after the spectacle, forced to see again in stone what they just witnessed in flesh. The Assyrians believed repetition made things real. If enough eyes saw the same story, it became history. And so every wall tells you that cruelty isn't shameful here, it's proof of divine order. Beyond those corridors lies another world entirely. The royal library. Shelves of baked clay tablets rise like organ pipes. The script etched so fine you can feel it through your fingertips. A single oil lamp trembles in the draught. There, amid the smell of ash and cedar, sits the same man who only hours ago watched lions tear through bone. Ashurbanipal. His robe now white, his hands clean. He is reading. The light paints him gentle, almost monk-like. He mouths each cuneiform line in silence, the way a priest might mouth a prayer. On the table beside him rest 3 tablets, one of omens, one of astronomy, and one of anatomy. Knowledge, stars, flesh, the universe reduced to clay. History likes to call him the first librarian, but that word feels too mild. This collection over 20,000 tablets isn't built for curiosity, it's built for control. Every subject that might give him advantage over men or gods has a place here. Metallurgy, poison, childbirth, curses. To know everything is to own everything. And so the same mind that orders the feeding of captives spends his nights studying liver divination and Sumerian poetry. To Ashurbanipal, there is no contradiction. The universe runs on hierarchy, and he is simply maintaining it. One book, one body at a time. Outside his chamber, servants move barefoot through corridors, carrying bronze bowls of water, trays of figs, folded linens. They don't speak. Eyes down, a glance in the wrong moment can be fatal. The palace breathes like an animal, slow, deliberate, waiting for its master's next gesture. Somewhere a priest sings a low hymn to Ishtar, goddess of both war and love. It drifts through the halls like smoke, sweet, unsettling, impossible to ignore. You begin to realize that the cruelty here isn't impulsive. It's ritual. Even terror follows protocol. By torchlight the city beyond the walls glows faintly, a sea of roofs and temples. At its center, the palace rises like a mountain of order. Within that mountain, fear is currency. Generals flatter, scribes chisel praise, courtiers trade rumors in whispers, so thin they sound like the wind itself. Each man's survival depends on how convincingly he can adore the king. No one loves him, they imitate love until they almost believe it. And in the echo chamber of adoration, even monsters sound holy. You think back to the lions. How carefully they were chosen. Male, young, strong, captured from the Zagros Mountains. Transported hundreds of miles, starved just enough to guarantee frenzy. The handlers treat them with reverence. They are not pets. They are instruments of policy. When the pit gates open, you're not watching nature, you're watching governance. The performance says rebellion is unnatural. Order is hunger satisfied. The Assyrians record these hunts on massive stone panels. The king shown piercing a lion's throat with his arrow. What the panels don't show is the man who cleans afterward. Somewhere in the archives, a clay letter waits 3,000 years for rediscovery. In it, a governor writes to his king, "We have captured the rebel. What is your pleasure?" The reply comes back, "Bring him alive. I wish to see him fed." Scholars argue even now, was that literal or metaphor? But if you stand here, in this corridor still smelling faintly of blood, the question feels rhetorical. The lions don't understand metaphors, neither perhaps does power. To the king, this isn't cruelty, it's choreography. The gods, he believes, created hierarchy the way they created rivers. Lions eat men, kings rule nations. The same divine logic applies. When he feeds his enemies to the beasts, he's not indulging a thirst for blood. He's maintaining cosmic equilibrium. Each scream rising from the pit becomes a note in a hymn of order. The lions cleanse the world. The king, its priest, conducts the ritual. Faith and violence here are synonyms written in clay. Imagine being one of his courtiers. You wake before dawn, scrub yourself with perfumed oil, rehearse the right compliments. You attend the morning audience, bow, speak when addressed, never when invited by silence. At the banquet you eat roasted lamb under frescoes of massacres. You pretend not to notice that your neighbor's seat was empty yesterday. When the king laughs, you laugh a heartbeat later. Never sooner, never longer. Survival is timing. Even joy must be measured. Every day ends the same, with relief that you're still among the living, and guilt that you are. Outside the palace, Nineveh thrives. Markets hum, oxen haul carts through narrow streets. Children play near the Tigris. The empire's prosperity gleams brighter than ever. But prosperity here is built from silence. Every merchant knows what happened to the city that rebelled last season. Its walls torn down, its people scattered. The message is carved into stone at every gate. The king of the universe restored order. Even the rivers seem to flow more obediently. Then, one night, the heavens turn restless. A storm rolls over the city, thunder cracking above the ziggurat, rain sheeting across the courtyards. The lion pit floods. Water churns red as it rises. Servants scramble with buckets, shouting to each other over the roar. The king appears on his balcony, robe plastered to his shoulders, eyes reflecting lightning. He does not flinch. In that moment, as the wind howls through the capital of the world, you realize something that every empire forgets eventually. The sky doesn't take orders. For the first time, even the lions look afraid. Morning breaks pale over Nineveh. The storm has rinsed the dust from the air. The city smells of wet clay and cedar. On the palace roof, water still drips from carved gutters shaped like open lion mouths. You rise with the servants, half afraid of the silence that follows rain. In Assyria, storms are omens, signs the gods are restless. But Ashurbanipal wakes smiling. He takes the thunder as applause. He sits in the audience hall as messengers arrive from every direction. From Babylon, tribute, ivory tusks and jars of honey. From Egypt, lapis and linen. From Elam, silence because Elam no longer exists. When the king crushed it, he did not just conquer the people, he erased the name. Its libraries burned, its gods forgotten. To defy Assyria was to vanish from maps and memory alike. The scribes beside him record these facts without emotion, the stylus clicking steadily on clay. For them, erasure is just another administrative act. You stand near the rear of the hall among interpreters and heralds. The air shimmers with heat from bronze braziers. A captured envoy kneels before the dais, forehead pressed to the floor. The king's voice is calm, his words chosen like measured coins. He promises peace to those who obey, order to those who yield. The message is simple. Fear buys stability. Around you the courtiers nod. They have learned that applause is safer than breath. Outside these walls the empire runs on that same currency. Governors in distant provinces stamped clay orders with the royal seal, a lion striking down a man, and the symbol travels faster than armies. Villagers pay taxes in grain and silence. Caravan masters gossip carefully at their fires. Even the desert wind might be listening. The Assyrian courier system is legend, riders changing horses every few miles, delivering letters that arrive before the rumors that inspired them. It is efficiency born from fear of delay. By midday the city hums again. The markets reopen, the priests chant in temples, and children chase one another through puddles left by the storm. Yet over everything hangs the palace, a shape of authority carved against the sun. The people look up at it the way sailors watch a distant lighthouse for guidance and for warning. They know stories of cities that resisted, Susa leveled, Thebes humbled. To survive, one must bow faster than the next man. In the scribal wing you watch clay tablets drying on racks, each one a record of conquest. Taxes, troop counts, lists of prisoners, fear catalogued into data. A young scribe beside you whispers that every new campaign brings a flood of captives and more tablets. The empire's archive grows heavier each year, like a conscience made of clay. When you ask him if the king ever reads them, the boy shrugs. The king already knows, he says. These are so the gods can't forget. In the evenings, Ashurbanipal holds councils. Scholars discuss omens, generals discuss borders. No one mentions the storm or the flood. The king listens, silent, eyes bright with calculation. When a councillor suggests mercy for a rebellious governor, the room tightens. Mercy in this language means weakness. The king waves a hand. A reed bends, a tree breaks, he says softly. I am the cedar. The meeting ends. No one writes that down, but everyone remembers. Weeks pass, and the fear that holds the empire together begins to twist inward. Spies watch spies. Governors report on their own households. You hear of a general accused of keeping part of the tribute. His villa is sealed, his name scratched from every tablet that mentioned him. Officially, he never existed. Assyria perfects not only conquest but deletion. The lion pit no longer needs fresh bodies. Bureaucracy does the work quietly. The palace artists capture victories on walls. The king hunting lions, marching in triumph, receiving tributes. Yet if you look closely, you see changes. The lions grow smaller, the king larger, the scenes more crowded with symbols of divine approval. Even art begins to tremble under the weight of fear. Painters add layers of gold leaf, hoping devotion might protect them from error. You start to wonder if anyone in this empire creates beauty for its own sake, or if everything is just another offering to survive another day. One afternoon you walk along the outer ramparts where the wind smells of river reeds. Below, caravans move like ants through the gate. Above, vultures circle lazily, patient accountants of empire. You remember the night of thunder, the king unmoving in the rain. For the first time you suspect even he feels the weight of what he built. Fear rules, but fear also isolates. The same walls that keep enemies out keep the king in. Power, it seems, is another kind of cage. The priests speak of omens, eclipses, comets, dreams of the river running backward. The king consults the tablets of prophecy and smiles. The gods test the strong, he says. But the test is already underway. Far to the east, new coalitions of cities whisper rebellion. To the west, Babylon stirs again. Even lions tire of the pit eventually. You watch smoke from the evening fires drift upward, and imagine it forming cracks in the sky. As night falls, musicians play softly in the courtyards. The melody is familiar now, a slow circular tune that never resolves. The palace glows in lamplight, perfect, invincible, and yet somewhere deep within you sense the first tremor of change, the hush that comes before history exhales. Empires, like storms, begin in silence. The summer heat settles over Nineveh like a lid on a jar. The Tigris crawls by in sluggish ripples, its surface the color of melted bronze. From the palace roof you can see the gardens drooping, their palms brittle from months without rain. The air itself feels exhausted. Inside the walls, merchants whisper about omens again. Black dust in the wind, stars that shimmer at dawn, horses that refuse to drink. The empire that once terrified the world is starting to hear its own heartbeat. At first, no one believes the rumors. The king's spies insist the rebels to the east are scattered tribes. The Babylonian alliance is too far away. The gods, they say, favor Ashurbanipal. But supply caravans begin to arrive late, and then not at all. Outposts stop answering signal fires. Traders bring news of burned granaries, bridges cut, soldiers deserting. In the royal library, the scribes write faster, their hands shaking just enough for the stylus to tremble. The first siege engines appear on the horizon like insects of iron. From the walls you can see their wooden frames crawling through the dust. The city still chants the old prayers, the ones that used to work. But the gods are quiet. The Tigris shrinks day by day, leaving cracked clay flats where fishermen once tied their boats. Even the lions in the royal pit pace restlessly, noses to the air as if they smell something coming that no human can name. Ashurbanipal stands at the battlements in full regalia, gold catching the last light. He looks every inch a king, but the weight behind his eyes is older than victory. His generals speak in low tones. The allies at Babylon and Media have united. Their armies march as one. The empire that once erased others from memory is about to be erased itself. Still, the king does not flee. Assyria does not run, he says. The words sound brave. They also sound like denial. Weeks stretch into months. The siege tightens. Arrows whistle day and night, falling like rain that never refreshes. Food grows scarce. The once lavish banquets shrink to bowls of grain and silence. People begin to trade jewelry for bread, prayers for water. Inside the palace, the courtiers avoid each other's eyes. Outside, the people look up at the walls, not with reverence but accusation. Fear, once the empire's foundation, has turned inward. One night the ground begins to shake, not from siege engines but from within. The Tigris, swollen by sudden storm rains upstream, bursts its banks. Water crashes against the city's northern wall, softening clay bricks baked 1,000 years ago. The engineers shout that the moat will hold. It doesn't. At dawn, part of the outer wall slumps like wet parchment. The enemy sees it. Trumpets sound across the plain. The final storm begins, not from heaven but from men. The invaders pour through the breach. banners whipping in the wind. Smoke blooms across Nineveh as granaries ignite. The palace courtyards fill with the roar of collapse. Stone, timber, flame, and human voices blending into one sound. You retreat with the scribes to the library, clutching tablets. One of them murmurs that the words must survive even if the city doesn't. You help stack clay records in sealed chambers, walling knowledge behind mud bricks. History becomes archaeology in real time. In the chaos, the king disappears from sight. Some say he fought until the palace gates fell. Others whisper he took refuge in the archives he loved. No one knows for certain. What is known is that when the fires finally die and the conquerors search the ruins, they find the lions dead in their cages, the fountains choked with ash, and the royal throne toppled sideways like a discarded idol. Nineveh, the city that once ruled from Egypt to Persia, has become a desert of smoke. Days later, the river returns to its calm course as if nothing happened. Vultures circle where banners once flew. Survivors stumble out along the mud banks carrying whatever they can. A bronze cup, a child, a story. They speak of thunder that came from the ground, of walls that melted, of a king who defied the gods one time too many. In their words, fear transforms into myth. Empires die, but stories learn how to breathe underwater. When archaeologists rediscover Nineveh, thousands of years later, they find those sealed tablets baked solid by fire, perfectly preserved. On them, the king's own words, the names of his conquests, his prayers to the gods, his pride. He wanted eternity, and in a strange way, he got it, but not as he imagined. The lions are dust, the walls gone. Yet his tablets whisper from museum shelves, a reminder that every empire built on fear eventually teaches someone else how not to repeat it. And you, the time traveler caught in this story, stand on those ruins now. The wind hums through broken gates, the sun flashes on fragments of glazed brick. Somewhere beneath your feet, the last of the king's words sleep in the dark. You realize how fragile power really is. The empire's terror lasted centuries, its silence has lasted millennia. You take one step back, away from the edge, because even in memory, Nineveh still knows how to stare. Dawn again. But the light over Nineveh feels different. Thin, almost reluctant. The courtyards, once filled with shouting guards, now echo only with the drip of fountains and the soft shuffle of sandals on stone. You wake to distant thunder that isn't weather. It's coming from beyond the river, low, rhythmic, metallic. An army moving closer. The empire that once erased other nations is about to learn what it means to vanish. From the balcony, the horizon flickers red. It isn't sunrise. Villages are burning. The Medes and the Babylonians, long humiliated by Assyria's iron hand, have joined forces. Their banners glint like teeth in the distance. Inside the palace, courtiers whisper in corners. Even the lions pace restlessly in their pens, noses twitching at the scent of smoke. You can almost feel the city holding its breath. Ashurbanipal, older now, heavier, sits in his library surrounded by thousands of tablets. The scholar king, who once read the wisdom of every land, now reads omens in the cracks of his walls. He murmurs prayers to gods whose names are fading from memory. A scribe suggests burning the archives so no one can use them against the crown. The king shakes his head. Knowledge is its own fire, he says. Let it burn by itself if it must. You sense in him not fear but fatigue, the kind that comes from outliving your victories. Outside, refugees crowd the gates. Farmers, soldiers' families, merchants clutching ledgers instead of children. The guards try to maintain order, but panic moves faster than discipline. Rumors become weapons. The rebels have breached the outer forts. The river is poisoned. The gods have deserted the city. In a way, all are true. The empire that once measured the world in obedience is discovering that fear cannot be taxed. At night, lightning glows beyond the hills, revealing siege engines creeping closer. The king convenes one last council. Half the seats are empty. Those who remain speak of defenses, supplies, miracles. Ashurbanipal listens, silent, fingers tracing a lion carved into the arm of his throne. Finally, he says, "Every empire ends twice. First in the world, then in memory. We have enjoyed the first. The second is not ours to decide." The men bow their heads, uncertain whether they've heard a prophecy or a confession. The siege begins. Stones crash against the walls. Flaming arrows arc through the night like dying stars. From within the palace, the noise sounds distant, as if the city itself were wrapped in a dream. You see women carrying water, boys sharpening spears too heavy to lift. For the first time, the lions are released, not upon enemies, but into the streets to sow terror among any who might flee. They vanish into smoke like spirits of vengeance. No one cheers. Days blur. The Tigris overflows its banks, flooding the lower city. Whether by chance or sabotage, no one knows. Mud walls collapse, towers sink. From the roof you watch whole neighborhoods disappear under brown water. The same river that nourished the empire now dissolves it grain by grain. People begin to say the gods have turned the floodgates themselves. The roar of water mixes with the roar of war, until you can't tell which is which. Then one night the gates fall. The rebels surge through, their torches scattering like fireflies. The air is thick with ash and panic. You hide among the archives. The king's library, his proudest creation, becomes a fortress of clay and smoke. Through the haze you glimpse Ashurbanipal standing by the doorway, robe torn, crown gone, face unreadable. He doesn't flee, he simply turns to the shelves, touches the tablets and whispers something you can't hear. By morning the palace is a shell. The lions lie silent in the courtyards, soot-covered statues among the ruins. The invaders pick through treasure halls where gold melts in puddles. Somewhere under the rubble, the library still burns, slow, steady, pages of clay turning to powder. Nineveh, the city that called itself eternal, crumbles into myth. And you, if you've survived this far, finally understand what it means to live in the shadow of a king who thought himself immortal. Centuries later, archaeologists will sift through this dust and find fragments of the tablets cracked but legible. They will marvel that the oldest stories of humanity, the flood, the lion, the pride of kings, were preserved not by power but by accident, baked hard in the heat that destroyed them. They will name Ashurbanipal both tyrant and scholar, monster and muse. And they will not be wrong. As the final light fades, you step through the ruins. Wind hums through broken corridors where once the king's laughter echoed. Every empire ends this way, not with a single blow, but with silence creeping through corridors that no longer remember footsteps. The lions are gone, the scribes are gone, even the fear is gone. Only dust remains. Dust and the faint scent of rain returning to the desert. If you could look down from the sky, you'd see the Tigris winding like a scar through what was once the center of the world. The palaces have vanished beneath farms and wild grass. Children play where kings once decreed the fate of nations. But somewhere under that soil lies a tablet etched with the word life. It endures because clay, unlike power, does not envy or forget. So, if you ever wake up in ancient Assyria, beneath that hot lion-carved sun, remember this: you would not survive by strength or speed or wit. You would survive, if at all, by silence, by lowering your eyes when the king passes, by praying the storm spares your house. Because in the empire of lions, mercy was not a virtue, it was an accident, and accidents, as history shows, are all that remain of greatness. You close your eyes, the sound of the flood fades, replaced by the hush of sand shifting over forgotten walls. Sleep now, you've outlasted the roar, and that for tonight is enough.